everyone. Thank you very much for coming through today. Thanks, Jack, as well, from all the way from Polokwane. Thank you. Very good. She left early this morning. Appreciate that. Thank you very much, Chris Palm, for talking to us today. Chris and I have known each other for a very long time. Chris goes back 27 years at Eskom, was audit manager, then head of forensics at Eskom, and then started the whole integrated risk management at Eskom in 2008. So I was part of senior executive. Chris is now the chief risk advisor at IRMSA. And what's really nice is Chris has got extensive experience, practical experience, as we all know. All the problems with Eskom a couple of years ago, and now we've got oversupply. Thanks, Chris, well done. And now that he's fixed everything, he's joined IRMSA. So we really welcome you and thank you very much for talking to us today. So thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you. So good morning, everybody. It's always nice. This is the second time that I actually had people clap hands for me when I'm introduced. Some time back, you can just imagine. So people will welcome me and say, so we introduced to you Chris Palm from Eskom. Just get the stare. Just get the stare. There's this lady sitting in front, her hair half done because this morning 5 o'clock it was load shedding. That sort of thing. So thanks for the warm welcome. My previous one was in Namibia because they didn't know me there, and I didn't introduce myself from Eskom. It's Chris Palm from IRMSA. So that always works well. While I'm setting up here, Jonathan, thank you very much for taking the risk of having me present on the Future Fit Risk Manager. I am a firm believer that for you to talk about risk management, you must have had some practical experience. You can read the book. As a matter of fact, you could read a couple of books. But once you try rolling out risk management, that's when you learn the lessons. And so when I applied for the job at IRMSA, one of the requirements was that you do a presentation on why they should appoint you. So one of the things I said, I approached it slightly different. So I went in there and saying, let me tell you why you shouldn't appoint me. Firstly, I have degrees, like all the other people on the shortlist. Secondly, I'm a member of IRMSA, I have a job, like all the other people on the shortlist. Because we're all the same, we all have studied, we all have done all the good things. But the one thing that I think that I can offer, and that's why I'm here this morning, is the fact that I have mostly led in a boardroom and sometimes succeeded, which is a different edge that I bring to IRMSA and that I've learned from Eskom, and thank you to Eskom for that. Because if you haven't done that, reading the book is very different to actually practically implementing and succeeding with risk management. So yes, it was me that prevented load shedding over the last couple of months, and once I've succeeded, I left Eskom. So not at all, not at all. I always say this though, you know, in 2007, I used to be the group audit manager, forensics and all of that sort of stuff. I started up the risk, as we know it, enterprise-wide risk management or integrated risk management. And there was no better marketing tool for risk management than the load shedding that happened in 2008. So I was actually, as a risk manager starting up a new function, quite privileged to have had that happen, because there was not an agenda that would not have me on it. And that's what you need. There's some luck in the downside. But enough of that, enough of that. Let me start by sharing with you what I think you need to know about, not risk management as you know it today, but the future fit risk manager. Now I take it that all of you are, by any shape or form, involved in risk management, whether you're the chief risk officer, whether you are a risk practitioner, whether you are just happy to be here. Either which way, these things will be hopefully takeaways for you for after this presentation. Risk management has no value if it's not about decision making. If you can't use the information gathered out of risk management in making a decision, you are too late. There is no point. How many of you report to board and exco on a quarterly report? Quarterly? Most of you? Yeah, most of you, quarterly. What does that mean? Are you arriving on quarter one, reporting on quarter two? Or are you arriving on quarter one, reporting on quarter one? I'm going to talk about that, because what's the value of that? More than a process, risk management is really more than the ISO or the COSO or whatever methodology or framework you use. It's really to drive an organization to become risk intelligent. Share some thoughts around that. Chief Risk Officer's office has to undergo a change. It has to become something very different. And I'll share some thoughts there. Sitting at the right table is very important. This whole concept of don't tell me, show me. Some thoughts around that. Tools allowing for scenarios, modeling, and ultimately predictive capabilities. And then time. The whole issue around time. How relevant are we as risk managers with our quarterly reports? We need to move past the thinking that that's where the value proposition of risk management lies. And then I want to share some thoughts around people. Because people equals risk management, and the management of risk equals people. Some thoughts around that. Whilst you look at this list, I read a lot, I present a lot, I sit in conferences where I see other people's presentations, I've been audited a lot, I've been mature assessed a lot and benchmarked a lot, and therefore I see a lot of information. And the point that I want to make with this slide is if I do reflect some of these people's IP, then hopefully I've acknowledged all of them. But more so, this is really just my presentation, the world according to Chris Farr, and I hope you're going to benefit from that. So I need to create a common understanding with you guys this morning, because it's very important that we don't miss the meeting of minds. We have to meet minds about where I am talking. So I'm using the trusted old maturity curve. You must have seen this somewhere. Even if you Google it, you're going to get this hit. And all this is saying is that you're here at some point in time, and you are moving ahead, and when you get to this level, you're not walking on water. I suppose you'd be making the water that the rest are walking on, because you will be so cool in the risk intelligence space. Now, I want to show you that if you're there, or if you are working towards getting into the unaware space, we're starting off, we sort of got a policy going. We are a centralized function, so we run around the country doing other people's risk, or maybe even have a policy. We actually even have a policy in our organization. Well, great, because I'm not going to talk today about that space. This space is where you and I are today. I would like to talk to you about this space. And this space is beyond policy, it's beyond framework, it's beyond methodology, and it's beyond reporting. I am seeing, and I have seen from my experience, that what is required here, what HR people, the old trusted HR people will refer to as soft skills. Something different to what you can tick off in the compliance box. So I want to talk about this space. And as long as you and I meet minds on that, then all the things I'll share is not what I'm expecting to have done. And if you have, great, because then you're on your way into the space. But that's where I see the future fit risk manager lies. In case you missed that, did you see that animation? So, if you think that being there is sort of good enough, I don't know, how many of you have been benchmarked before? PwC, Ernst & Young, they all come around and they do a benchmark, and they say, don't feel bad, you're there. The whole of the country is there. Have you had that before? I've had that twice. So I say, well, you know, it's like when my children get back from school and they say, Dad, I failed maths, but don't worry. Most of the people in the class failed maths. I'm not there, you know, I don't care. I care about you. So the issue is, if this is what you thought is going to be your value proposition for where you are and what you want to sell and what you want to achieve, I don't think so. I think if you're there, this is what's going to happen to you if you do not change, if you do not adapt and adopt. If you do, however, take anything away from this morning's presentation and you start moving into this space, that's what I think will happen to you in a very quick space of time, when you start not just telling but showing, when you start taking a leadership role in the risk management space. So, we've met minds. I am talking to you in this area. I'm not going to talk about policy and framework and methodology and that sort of stuff. I'm sure somebody else can do that some other time. So what is it that I'll be talking to you about? I'll be reflecting on the fact that just having a process is not good enough. The process will get you nowhere. We spoke this morning about whether ISO 31000 is certifiable and what's the importance of having a certifiable sort of methodology or framework that you use. You could use COSO. And all the other external firms sell very good, you know, frameworks and methodologies. A little bit more complicated because they want to come back and help you do it. So they make it a little bit more special. But the fact of the matter is, it's more than that. It's more than process. It has to be about decision making. And I want to talk about the whole concept about risk for reward. That implies that you have to take risk to be rewarded. King talks about opportunity. I've got a very different view on that. It's like the whole argument around risk, and the other side of risk is opportunity. Yeah, that's okay, because let me give you a practical example. It's like the interest rate going up. Now, for half the group that are pensioners, it's a marvelous thing, because I'm getting a better return. It's a passive opportunity. They did absolutely nothing to get it. For the rest of us, including me, that's indebted to the hill, it's like the worst news that you could get. And you would like to treat that sort of risk. So that's passive. But then there's planning, there's strategizing. That says, we strategize for reward. We strategize and plan for the opportunities that are out there. And I'll share some thoughts around that. But just to make you know that it's not just risk for reward. There's risk and reward. You can really just pursue opportunity as well. And I'm touching on some of those a little bit later. If you have a process, it's marvelous. But if it's not integrated and embedded in your wider organization business processes, you've got something unique. It's just you and your process. And you are forever trying to sell this, forever trying to get people in your workshops, and forever. I remember when I started off in 2007, having a risk workshop, you would have people flocking in, sitting the whole day. We set the context, we identify risks, people vote. Oh, that was the most exciting part of it, to vote, to plot the risk. And so when you spend time in risk management process, you spend time by, is it now a 5 by 4 or is it a 5 by 5? And from 11 o'clock in the morning till over lunch, we end up with something, and that becomes the important thing, because, oh, that's important.
11 by 11 works with it.
There we go. So there's a solution already. I find, though, that if you use the alphabet for likelihood and maybe numerics for consequence, even works better. Yeah. Okay, so you need to get risk management embedded. You need to get 42,000 people in your organization to start using risk management. That's the challenge. Risk management information system versus systems. You know, when we started off, and actually if I say we, my apologies, I'm not referring to IMSA, I'm referring to my time in ESCO, because most of this I reflect on my practical experience. So we had one system, and it was really just a glorified database. It was never going to be an intelligent system. And so over the years, we pursued this whole issue around intelligence and intelligent system. And where I stand today, I have to say to you, I don't think it's just one system. I think it's an integration. I think it's a platform of integrated softwares, of integrated data sources, and how one uses that. And then lastly, stakeholder management. So if I talk about this space here, I'm saying I'm going to share some thoughts about those sorts of things. Now moving, I'm sure we're all aware of the IQ versus the EQ. This is what came to mind when I considered my experience around presenting to boards and ExCo, is that you had people around the room that really understood risk management because we read the book. And so when you start presenting, people start challenging you on the framework. And whether it's a 5x5 or a 6x11, or there's no value proposition in that. What you needed to do is to get to an EQ, where people were happy and willing to talk about the uncomfortable things. And so what did we tell ourselves? We said to ourselves, we needed a risk culture. If you have a strong risk culture, then this is going to happen. I think it's true. But are we sitting and waiting for this risk culture to happen? Because I'm seeing it different. I'm seeing it like this. And this is 10 years worth of experience that led me, and again, people, please, this is Chris Palm sharing stuff that I've learned with you, takeaways for you. If you benefit, great. If we differ, we can discuss afterward. But let me just show this again. If we expect the board to come up with their risk culture so that we can benefit from being more effective, we're going to wait a while. I'm putting this on the table. I'm saying let's take that model, and whilst we wait for the board and for the ExCo to start understanding the importance of risk, why don't we play these roles as the chief risk officers of an organization? Why don't we start by taking leadership, by starting stuff, by doing things? Why don't we do that? Why don't we pick it up and we start setting agendas? We start the integration of risk management with the decision-making model. Why don't we start doing that? Who of you have reported to a board and an ExCo? Don't show hands, that's not important. But if you have, I call it the version 1 of my report. When you write your first report as the chief risk officer of an organization or a risk manager, whatever the case may be, that's version 1. Then you get to the subcommittee of ExCo. And then they say, but Chris, we're not happy with this reference to Russia. Let's take it out. We're not happy with the reference to this family or that organization. You must take it out. We're not happy that this rating is so aggressive. You must. So by the time you get to board, you are actually representing a fairy tale, because it's changed so much from the original risk view to what is palatable to the board and ExCo, that, well, you know what, you lost the message, you lost the value of your report, it's gone. So, 2007, I was, well, that makes me 10 years younger, 10 years less experienced. I ventured into the space where I said to the then chairman of the ESCOM risk committee, I said, but I told you so. Big mistake. Came back and he said to me, and this was very powerful because it took me about a month to really understand what he said to me. He said to me, Chris Palm, if you told me so, why did I not listen? Version 1 report, fairy tale. So eventually when you get to report to board, your message is lost. You've sugar-coated the whole sort of message to the point that everybody's sitting there thinking, yeah, this is good, this is okay, we're actually okay. But if you compare that to the version 1, you have not taken the time to deal with bad news, or to speak the unspeakable, or to, somebody says, there's a book out, The Crucial Conversations, unmitigated speech. that sort of report writing, that sort of mental state of the Chief Risk Officer. I've spent a lot of time on there, but for those that do present at Exco and board, have you had this experience before? So you're nervous, these people can hurt you, they employ you, so you're sitting outside and you're waiting to be called in by the company secretary. You're sitting there and you're rehearsing your presentation, and, shall I say this? And then the door opens and there's the company secretary. Smile, hey big, Chris, don't worry, we took your report as read. You guys have had that? You've taken your report as read. What does that mean? We've read through it, oh, it's so lovely, we don't have to talk about it any further. You know where you are, if I may quickly do that? You are in this space. You have not added value. You have not had the crucial conversation of dealing with bad news. And so, you will recall I said earlier on, these are all about soft issues. These are about things that a Chief Risk Officer of the future, the risk manager of the future, even risk practitioners of the future will have to start fixing in their characteristics that they build throughout this profession. Is the ability to deal with bad news and to report bad news and stick with that message. Accountability. Take the lead in assigning accountability for the management of risk. I believe there's a difference between risk management. That is risk management. That's a framework. If you're lucky enough to have a policy, a framework, a methodology, you have a report that hits the table quarter 1 to 4. That's risk management. But the management of risk is a very different thing. That is where we change risks into either opportunities, we treat them down into the acceptable appetite level that we have, and that responsibility does not sit with the Chief Risk Officer. You do not own the resources, you do not own the delegation of authority or the accountability to do that. Go read about what are the roles of the Chief Risk Officer. So, if we're going to wait for that to happen, I tell you, we're going to wait for very long. But if we take the lead by starting to assign accountability, let me give you an example. So 2 years back, Eskom board and Exco gets compacted for the management of risk. Chris Palm is compacted for risk management. So I make sure that there's a firm policy, a well-established framework, a methodology that works, that there are softwares that support the organization, that there's a governance structure around what risk management does, and that he brings the accountable parties to Exco board. I cannot tell you how the landscape of risk management in Eskom changed within 6 months after having achieved that. After having a 10% risk and resilience item on an Exco member, a group executives compact. It changed the whole landscape of risk management in Eskom. And within 18 months, no load shedding. Many other things, but that's the sort of impact it has. Transparency. Transparency links back to the bad news. If you want to really, really make a change as a future fit risk manager, those two characteristics in your makeup may land you in trouble, but let me tell you this, it will also make you a mind changer. So, in hindsight, not everybody is cut out to be a Chief Risk Officer, because if you cannot do that, I do not believe that you'll change the organization in terms of its value. Risk-informed decisions. I used an example earlier on. I spoke about, so when do you report? I report at the end of, or the middle of quarter 2 on quarter 1. Well, that's old news, isn't it? That's late. I'm just telling you where you've been. I can just as well be an internal auditor. Yeah? I'm after the fact. Whereas, if you manage through leadership, through accountability, to make your risk information available when it's needed, when decisions are taken, that's when you're a game changer. That's when you're a mind changer. That's where people have relevant information to make the right decision to either treat risk in the way that I exploit an opportunity, or I treat or I mitigate a risk down. And that's why we don't use the word mitigate. Mitigate means to lessen. And having listened to King 4 and understanding that risk is just risk, it's not good or bad. If I understand my stakeholders and their objectives and my context, and I identify a risk, I can exploit it for its opportunity, interest rate, the example I used earlier, or I can treat it down in terms of its exposure and debt. So risk is just risk. Spoke about reward. Risk resources, I'm going to talk about not now, a little bit later on. I've got some thoughts around that. And then risk skills. And so people, this is my view on how we could actually turn our organization from an IQ, from either levels 1, 2, or 3 in the maturity, to moving to a more of a risk-intelligent organization. Okay. Let's talk about decision making. So I'm now just unpacking the thoughts on the previous slide, just so that you get some little bit more information. Who of you, I think this is the best way that I can summarize what I've just shared with you. Who of you have seen the movie Sully? Sully? Well done. Sully. Now for those that haven't seen it, now's the time before you go back to work across the road. There's a huge shopping centre just somewhere behind Tasha's. I only get as far as Tasha. But behind that, you'll find a musical by the movie Sully. Sully is about Captain Sullenberger, who landed the 747 onto the Hudson River.
No, it wasn't.
So, or whatever. Landed us 160 odd passengers on the plane. He landed the plane on the Hudson River. And he got slated for that later on in the movie. But my concern was the first 120 odd seconds, give or take a year or there. And if you are at all familiar with ISO 31000, now suppose COSA will work, be ISO 31000. UMSA as well, UMSA's guide is based on ISO 31000. There is no better example that I can share with you where ISO 31000 worked within 120 odd seconds, give or take it. How the event happened and our stakeholder analysis, stakeholder objective analysis happened, communication, context setting, risk identification. What are my controls? Are they working? How effective are they? What else do I need to do? What do I need to monitor? What do I need to review? And then I make a decision and I execute. And he saved every single life on that plane. Yes, there were unintended consequences. The insurance company was unhappy. We would rather have killed 160 people than have the Boeing at the bottom of the Hudson. Well, if you watch the movie, I'm sure they played it up a little bit. But the point that I'm trying to share, there was no, do I have a policy? Do I have a framework? Do I have a this? There was everything that happened in that 100 seconds were beyond that. It was, what do I use as my character, my experience, my learnings, and then make a decision. Very, very strong lesson. Please, you have to, even if you lend it from somebody, borrow it from somebody, you must have a look at that. So having shared that with you,
What's the worst example in current movies of the opposite?
share with us.
Deepwater Nine. Deepwater Nine, the one about the world record.
Oh yes, Deepwater Horizon. Deepwater Horizon, yes indeed. Mark Wahlberg, where they knew about it. That's a very good example of how somebody did not apply what they knew and sugarcoated the message, as a matter of fact, because they knew the testing wasn't done properly. That's a very good example for us. It's front shot.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
the antithesis of the
Yes, yes. Okay, so if we said that better, faster decision making, my earlier comment around, so 1 day, 50 days, 50 days, 1 day, this is the point. We need to move into a risk intelligence state. We need to find innovative ways of applying our risk framework, our methodology, so that we can support decision making. It's not just for reward, it's and reward. The right way. We have to have a solid policy, a solid framework, a solid methodology. Because without that, you cannot move into 4 and 5. But please don't get bogged down in that space. Get into a space where you become creative around real-time reporting, real-time information sharing, that you build platforms of access to data, that you turn into intelligence and that you share. There's a mind shift that has to happen, that the quarterly report is the be-all and end-all of a chief risk officer. I don't know if you, maybe your compact says you have to achieve these 4 deadlines and, maybe not. But if you are there, I was there, then you very quickly realize that that's not the value proposition. It may be that you still have to do that for compliance sake, but you've helped nobody other than yourself. You really haven't helped it because you're going to get the door open on you and you're going to get told, we've taken it as read. You would not have had the crucial conversations around risk management. Risk management is about discussion, it's about engagement, it's not about a report. If you cannot get your ExCo, even your ManCos, I'm now talking management level, executive level, board level, if you cannot get them to talk about risk, then you haven't done your job. Now we're back at the culture. Bad news is it's not palatable. People don't want to talk about that. But you are the mind changer. You are the one that will put it on the table. My measurement for a successful ExCo changed from not being called in the beginning, you don't want to be called in. Because if they come out and say, well done on your report, I'm successful. But as you mature, as you experience the impact of what you do, and you start challenging that, you would very quickly learn that the success, the measure of success, is when there's blood on the wall in the boardroom, and there's blood on the wall in the ExCo, because of the information that you put on the table. And again, I need to say there, please be reminded that you are not responsible for the management of risk. The people in that boardroom that cause blood on the wall, they are the people that's responsible. They are the people that are being challenged, and that's why there's blood on the wall. If you can have that, if you can run a workshop that tethers on chaos with an ExCo or a board, that's success. Because people are talking about risk. My last couple of quarters in Eskom, you would go in with a risk and you'll walk out with something totally different. You would walk out with a newly defined risk, a newly defined position within the appetite, and an allocated sponsor. Accountability has been assigned in that ExCo. So we've got a water problem. The risk doesn't articulate that quite the way that we see it. Chris, please do this, change the rating, adjust the appetite. These are the things we want done, and Group Exec for Environmental Affairs, you are the sponsor to make this happen by the next, within the appetite space, or what we are prepared to tolerate. And that didn't happen because it was in a report, it happened because it was a discussion. And it happened because the message was not sugar-coated. It was unmitigated reporting, unmitigated speech. Get to the point. Okay, what am I missing? For you to get here, this is really a terrible thing. Appetite and tolerance. You must have heard of that before. Anybody? Appetite, tolerance. It's terrible. It's such a hard thing to do. Can I see who has ventured into that space within your organizations? There we go. I hope you agree with me that it's a difficult thing to do. It's a difficult thing just to get it on the table, never mind to make it work. So that, unfortunately, is what I'm going to leave you with on this. If you don't have that, you don't have much. I use the analogy about this person, see, I'm gender sensitive, this person getting lost in the woods, gets to a fork in the road, and now he's going, am I going left, am I going right? And about an hour later, he's still at the fork in the road, and then Tinkerbell fairy tale sort of appears and says, so where do you want to go? And the person said, well, I'm not sure. And so the little fairy said, so now how does it matter which way you then take the fork? Because you don't, that's appetite intolerance. Think about it. If you don't know what you are prepared to stomach, appetite, and how much of that you are prepared to tolerate, what does it matter to put a risk on a dashboard? Because is it too high? Is it too low? Is it something that I should care about? Is it something that's just there? So again, in the 4 and 5 space, appetite and tolerance is something that we have to pursue. Leadership from the CRO's office. Now the CRO has got the policy, the framework, the methodology. He's got the compliance going on the side. He's got benchmarking happening. And he's a solid 3 performer in terms of maturity. And that's where we want to be, and we're doing well. You can't do more. You can't do the policy better. You can't do the framework better. You can't do the methodology better. There's nothing there to be done. You will be a 3 this year. If I say a 3, I refer to the maturity, and you'll be a 3 next year, and so on and so on. The moving into the space for 4 and 5 is where the Chief Risk Officer takes a leadership role in as far as challenging the way that we do business in the risk shop. There's this leadership style called Knefe. It's pronounced Knefe. But it borders on the fact that if you think risk is simple and it's linear and it will happen in a certain way today and tomorrow and it will happen within my quarter, you're mistaken. Risk is not even complicated. Complicated is just, there's a very difficult set of instructions to follow, and if you're intelligent enough, then you could do that. Risk is complex, and it's only complex because it involves people. And people makes a complicated thing complex. It's worthwhile reading this Knefe, the Knefe framework, because as a Chief Risk Officer, you are dealing with people. And if you can harness people, you are moving into the risk intelligence space. You are a future fit risk manager. So I will be circulating this presentation afterward. But the point is, you're going to have to make the mind shift, not of your only, but of your team, of your board, of your exco. That risk is not simple. It's not easy. It's not a workshop now, and then all of a sudden I have a dashboard with a little circle on it, and now we know about this risk. And there we stop. Well, you're not going to get into the risk intelligence space there. So what I'm sharing around the leadership role is that there's a different way of thinking that the risk shop must be led, and that the risk practitioners and the risk managers must respond. And risk is not simple, it's not complicated, it is really complex. And if we don't get that under control, we move into chaos and disorder. And that's the value proposition of the Chief Risk Officer. What do I think in as far as where I think a Chief Risk Officer sits at a middle maturity, a stage 3, versus the changes that we need to make? So the quarter 1, the quarter 2, the quarter 3 and 4, it's like an immediate understanding of where we are. I think we need to move much wider, much further into the emerging space, into the resilient space, into the space where we anticipate things by virtue of the information that we have, and not necessarily just workshops and that sort of thing. I'm going to spend some time on a slide or two on cross-disciplinary. This most of you do. I trust that when you solicit the risk workshop, you have a value chain representation in your, not just all the finance people to talk about finance risk, or the risks surrounding the financial objectives. Not just the commercial people when I talk about commercial objectives. That you have cross-boundary representation. The one I want to spend some time on is the systems approach. Systems thinking. You have to build that capability in your team. Now, I'm sure, forgive me if I'm talking to you as big corporates, because maybe that's the sort of mistake I'm making. But the systems thinking as an individual capacity. It's a capacity that you can build yourself in as far as understanding the integration, interconnectedness, drivers and pivots of the risks that I'm working around. Who of you have read the IMSA 2017 risk report, South Africa risk report? Thank you. It's a good document. We're really trying to get to the level of integrity and credibility of the World Economic Forum, so we're working hard at that report. But there was one page in that report that we stuck our necks out last year. Jonathan is part of the Risk Intelligence Committee, and that committee takes ownership of the report. We used a lady from, her name's Dr. Dana Gumpel, and she's a systems thinking expert. And we gave her our information. And she did a systems thinking diagram. I have it at the end, and if you want me to show it to you, I will, but it's right at the end. It's like sort of backup slides. If all else fails, you go to the basis. So the point is, in October, for us to make the January release deadline, we have to have the report done in November. For that to happen, to get it to the typesetters, we have to finalize the report at the end of October. So end of October 2016, we predicted a credit rating downgrade based on the systems thinking. And March 2017 it happened. Now, we stuck our necks out, the Risk Intelligence Committee, in doing that, because we could have been wrong and goes the credibility of that report. But we felt so strongly about the whole skill of systems thinking and using credible tools. And we were so happy with our data integrity that we collected, that we published that. We put it in, I'll show you what the slide looks like. And we said, these are the 4 risks that pivot around governance, that if that's not fixed, you will have a credit rating downgrade. And so it happened. So just a thought around that, mental note to school and to build this capability within your team. Another one, speak the unspeakable. It's very different to think the unthinkable. You know the black swan stuff, I still struggle with that. I don't really get my mind around the black swan yet, and I've tried to read the book. You know the Talib, I can't remember his name now, Talib, by Black Swan. Yes, Nassim Talib. There, thank you very much. Nassim Talib. And I'm struggling to get my mind around that. I attended an ME conference just earlier this year in the UK. And this gentleman, keynote speaker, comes out and his topic was thinking the unthinkable. And so, like any, I suppose, good presenter does, he updated his presentation with the latest events. And the 2 that he quoted was, firstly, Donald Trump becoming president, think the unthinkable. And I thought to myself, but surely Donald Trump wasn't incarnated on the day of the inauguration, and there he is, and nobody saw it coming, and surely he was in a presidential race for 2 years, and somebody in Hillary Clinton's camp must have said, but guys, what if, you know the whole trusted what if Donald Trump wins this election? So I didn't buy that one. And when I knew that he also doesn't have the paradigm sorted around black swans, is his last one, which was 2 days before the EMI conference. BA, British Airways, had that massive systems collapse. And he says, that's thinking the unthinkable. And I thought, no, you in the 1 to 3 space, you're probably still in the 1 space. Because you want to tell me that an airline does not think about the single most important thing, collapsing. So, yeah, enough said. They really fancy overseas. But I see IMSA is also doing this now. They put up, but IMSA learned the lesson, by the way, but let me get to my story. They put up a WhatsApp line. You could WhatsApp your question. Whilst the speaker's there, you WhatsApp the question, and then, big mistake, question pops up on the screens. Whereas IMSA, the questions just go to a phone. You know? Because between the question and the presenter being asked to respond, they put in a moderator. So somebody looks at the question, says, a little bit iffy, cancel the question. So the moderator in our session was a little bit late. So my question pops up on the board and it stays there for about 3-4 seconds and then turns red and disappears. Gone. Never answered the question because I asked him. I said, so what happened to the old trusted what if? You know, and you want to explain Black Swan, explain thinking the unthinkable if it's right in front of you. It's not as if nobody knew Donald Trump or saw Donald Trump or knows that a world-class airline runs off a very intelligent software strategy, technology, and management system. You know, so anyway, the point is, we need to be able to think further than say, oh, but we never thought about this. We need to build that capacity. We need to have the long-term orientation. I speak about mind changers a lot. Risk managers are mind changers. And if we take some of these things away, and we add that as objectives for our report, for the way that we roll out risk management in our organization, and the way that management of risk should reflect back, we're going to ask for different KPIs from our team. For you guys that are managers of risk practitioners, of risk people, go back and look at your job contacts for those people, your performance contacts. What are you asking for from them? Because that's a very good starting point to change the way your risk shop functions and your risk shop operates. I really would like for us to dominate in the decision making, not saying making the decision, but really to supply evidence, information, input into the decision making process. It is not easy. Nothing that I'm speaking about in areas 4 and 5, nothing of those things that you have to do are easy. They are not, because it's not a template, it's not another methodology, it's not a software. It is all in the way that we're thinking about the future of risk management. This is something that we could easily fix. Now, this is no reflection in whether it's good or bad, it's just that for Eskom was 47,000 people, 17 coal-fired power stations, a nuclear power station, some hydro, some gas. It's spread across the whole country. It is a vertically integrated company. It starts off with generation, transmission, distribution. It has sales and customer and all the other support functions that go about it. And the center-led function, very different to centralized. Center-led function had 6 people in it. And so how were we going to make this work? And it's all about being included in the right discussions and including people in your discussions. Costs you nothing, doesn't add to your budget, doesn't add to your headcount, nothing like that. It's really just very intelligent networking. So the point that I'm making here is know what's going on in your organization. Identify those subject matter experts. You know, some people call them the game changers, people that other people listen to. They're not necessarily the top brass, but they're the influential ones, they're the knowledgeable ones. They're more often than not the ones with a 20-year experience, the one that's been around. Understand who those are in your organization and leverage from them. Be invited to the right committees. There are plenty of committees in your organization. You can't go to all. You can't be all over the place. Make it your task, your goal to identify those 4 or 5 that you need to be invited to and get invited there. Sit around those tables. Then create opportunities for people to sit around your table. Create forums, create round tables, discussion forums, create a WhatsApp group. Look, I'm talking outside of my age group now. I don't know those things. But I ask about Twitter and I ask about WhatsApp and all of these good things. There are lots of people in your organization They come to your basic risk training training, and they're more than happy to send you a WhatsApp about what they've seen. Understand the fundamentals, the basics around risk management. Leverage on that. You're not going to put it in your report right away. You'll put some integrity, some quality checks to it. You'll investigate this. But hell, man, putting up a radar for what my organization is telling me is really powerful. And maybe this is old techie for you, old news. But we learned that the hard way. You have feet on the ground. You have people seeing things. So the whole issue around incidents and events and logging these sorts of things becomes very important rather than chasing a better policy. At least that's my view, becoming part of a network, building your own. So I've shared a little bit there. For when you get the presentation, this is not just a nice picture, this was actually thinking about who do you need around your table. So when you read these sorts of things, there's some guidance in there as well, just as a lead down. Risk management information systems. Barnyard is the best out there for in case you wonder. That's my envelope. So certainly your starting point is a credible, well-developed risk management software. I do not think you're going to find risk intelligence embedded in just one software. It's a good starting point. It's a very important starting point. But harnessing systems that you have in your organization, because let's be honest, you're going to need a budget to buy software. You're going to need to train people to use the software. You're potentially on a software replacement cycle of 3, maybe 5 years. That's really, from a risk return on investment perspective, it's a bad position to be in, because all the time that you should be focusing on risk management, you're going to focus on replacing my software every now and again. So buy a good one and settle down on it and live with the upgrades, but buy one that you can integrate with. GRC is a very smart thing that's going around. I left before it started working with us because I couldn't see it. I wasn't in that space. But using exception reports and incident management tools and using the electronic audit function from a control perspective, using SAP, but after reports that can integrate with your software is very important. It really puts you on the map when it comes to you influencing decisions. Because let me tell you what that brings, and I think I'm talking about that here somewhere. You need to become a predictive risk shop. You must be able to build a predictive capability in your shop. The shop where we said, if you don't treat these risks now, March you will have a credit rating downgrade. That's valuable. Yes, you are putting your credibility out there, and I'll talk about the quality management program just now. Yes, that is so. You are taking the chance. If you're wrong, no skin off your nose. If you're right, you've made a huge difference. It's like car insurance. You buy it, but you don't want it to work. So that's okay if the thing doesn't go bad. It's okay for us. And you know, when I talk about the characteristics of a risk practitioner, a risk manager, a chief risk officer, it's bigger than our egos. I've learned that the hard way. It's bigger than us. We must see that this is I suppose it's like a service industry, hey? We're just a service industry. Where did I hear this when somebody said, oh, there's this program on TV called Bull. It's about this lawyer that puts together jurors. And he said to the one guy that being successful is rewarding if you don't want to take the credit for it. I think that's sort of a logo that risk managers at some point need to pencil down somewhere. If we need to take the credit for something, it'll potentially not be that successful because we'll forever be worried about our credibility and therefore write the wide statement because it can't be wrong. You know, if we don't get to the point, we can't be wrong. Okay, so risk management information systems. This is a very telling graphic that I've put up here. Who of you have Sky or some TV in your office or in your risk shop, having BBC and all of those good multi-screen, maybe something that tells you about how many attacks on the firewall today? You'll be surprised how many you get on a day. How many safety incidents were logged in my organization? No. It's called a war room. Some people call it a war room. Some people call it a situation reporting room. It's not difficult to do. Let me tell you, that's not difficult to generate in your organization. Those systems exist. All you need to do is to find a way to integrate to whatever's happening. I kid you not. Now, why would that be important? I'm making a jump, but I need to leave you with that. Because the question that I asked the first time I heard that was, so which ones do I put up there? So there's temperature, and maybe there's water usage, and emissions at power stations, and coal burnt, and all of these good things. Trucks through a gate, you know that they track that? Because if you know how many trucks go through the gate, you know how many tons are being delivered, that sort of thing, and you can predict your burn rate versus stock availability, track the weather pattern, and all of a sudden you've got a feel for when it's going to rain and we run out of coal and we need to tell that to the country. That sort of thing. Key risk indicators. Appetite, tolerance, key risk indicators. Okay. People and skills. I'm going to leave you with this. I think this is my last one. I'll maybe just wrap up with a quick slide. People and skills. You only have so much money and your limit on your head count. Similarly to your round tables, where you invite your table and where you get invited to, build virtual teams. Use social media. Set up WhatsApp groups. Set up in your mail taxonomy within your organization. Dropboxes or things where people can leave you with photographs of things or ideas or events or concerns. I tell you, the word reverse engineer always comes to mind. When I look at incidents and I start unpacking the reasons behind it, I typically find that there's a risk somewhere and ineffective controls, and I can see. So virtual teams, social media, collaboration tools. And please collaborate, because you can't appoint all the people you need to move into the 4 and 5 space. It's impossible. It's going to cost you too much, and you're going to have a whole floor for yourself in terms of individuals. So my hour's up, but I just have one more slide if I may. So in conclusion, what do I think? This is the takeaways that I would like to leave with you. What do I think a risk intelligent organization needs? What can you take back and start ticking off to say, so where am I? And instead of making sure that I comply to anything, do an internal check and say, do I have the right characteristics? Not just myself, but also my team, because as you know, not everybody has everything. But what are the people in my team contributing to the table? So a risk intelligent organization. Firstly, make sure you have a sound policy, a sound framework, and a sound methodology. If you don't understand it, what more will the other people in your organization do? So stop buying stuff that is so complex that only the person that sold it and potentially you understand it. Stop doing that, because then it means risk management is made for one person, or maybe 2 people, or maybe 10 people. And a similar comment, I'll make that comment later, but that's a fundamental position that I take with risk management. It doesn't have to be the best. It must just be practical, and it must work. Of my slides, I forgot to talk about it. I used the word adapt, I think. It means that whatever you have to make work for your organization. It mustn't work for Transnet, because I'm not in Transnet. It must work for Eskom. So that's a takeaway. So please, when you look at what you have, Don't go for the benchmark that says this is world class, because world class may not work for you. It must be practical and it must be delivering the results that you're after. Please have a quality assurance. Second thing you do in your organization, have a quality assurance program in place. You must have this. If you get burnt because of a report that's inaccurate, that's got either incorrect or inadequate information in it, that's credibility gone. You can be wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't be found being factually incorrect. Don't be found not to have applied your methodology right. You know, the biggest thing, if I may leave it with you, go back and just understand, what am I using and where do I start? Everybody starts with risk identification. Starts with a workshop. Yes, that's the worst place to start. That's the worst place to start. Follow your methodology. Start with understanding what my objectives are. Who do I affect through those objectives? And who affects me on those objectives? That's stakeholder understanding. Start with that, and you've got an effective risk management process. Do not start with risk identification. Okay, that was a sort of a passionate call, I think. So out of clear organizational value expectation from the Chief Risk Officer and the CEO. You know that slide that I turned upside down? Culture versus what do I do? It's a very important slide to take to your CEO and understand what is it that he wants from the risk shop that he's paying for. It's very important to understand what my goals are and to influence those goals. You have to influence those goals, because the goals that you read in these glossies that you get from the external firms, the role of the Chief Risk Officer, they're compliance goals. Go check them. They're compliance goals. They're not value-add goals. Okay. Integrated risk, and these are chronological, by the way, so there is some sense in following it from the top. Integrated risk into the business processes. We have to pursue that. We're going to have to, for future fit risk managers, we're going to have to start integrating risk into business processes. Real-time influence on decisions based on well-developed, active KRIs. So you asked me, what's that screen? Well, if you have KRIs, if you never have two, build a screen for two and monitor those KRIs. That gives you predictive capability. Different approaches to people, skills, and knowledge. I think I've said enough about that. Harnessing networks, harnessing skill, harnessing subject matter experts. You don't have to appoint them. You don't have to say that I can't get them, they're too expensive. They're in your organization. They're there. And then lastly, complexity science. If we are going to make a difference, as Chief Risk Officers, risk managers, risk practitioners, we're going to have to realize that risk is not simple, it's not linear, and risk involves people. And when something involves people, it becomes complex. And start educating and building experience around managing complexity. Great risk officers, right there for the making. And with that, Jonathan, I would really say thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciated the chat, and thank you to you all for listening. Yeah.